Good evening, everybody. Shaq here. Welcome back to Shaq's Corner. And we're back again with episode 2 of The Last Raiders. Tonight's episode is featuring a man that needs no introduction because of all of his, I don't even know what word to describe it. Influence feels to be too small of a word, but influence with all of us at Rice, those who came before and those who came after. Oz, or as I like to call him, Chino, please introduce yourself.
Absolutely. So my name is Oswaldo Ortiz. I am a graduate of Rice High School, class of 1998. I also was working at Rice High School through my own catering company from the years 2008 through 2011 until the year the school closed. I was also a baseball coach at the school and a mentor to many of the students there. And I continue to be actually a mentor, I think, to quite a few of the young men that attend the Rice and continue, the works that we're doing through the Rice Raiders Alumni Association and just in an everyday life, carrying myself as a Rice man should.
Absolutely. And I mean, that's the first thing they teach you when you walk through those doors. And it shows in the lives a lot of us lead now, many years later since graduating or walking away from the school.
Yeah, for sure. I agree.
So obviously, class of 1998, what brought you to Rice High School? What helped you come to that conclusion?
That's funny. I had never stepped foot in Rice. When I was in 8th grade, you take the Catholic high school exam. At the time, it was called the co-op exam, and I believe now it's called the tax exam. Basically, the application to get into the Catholic high schools, and you get to choose 3 schools that you want to apply to. And my grades in 8th grade weren't exactly fantastic in any way. and I had actually been given the opportunity to take the entrance exam for Regis High School. I didn't get in. So I had my eyes kind of set on some other places. Now, I never wanted to attend a boy-girl school for high school. I think for me, it was going to be a distraction. I had already seen it in my life in 8th grade. I was, distracted by the co-ed environment. And these are like vital years of your life growing up. So had a conversation with my teacher, my 8th grade teacher, and she said, you should really look into Rice. I don't know if you've been over there yet or not, but you should look into it and give it a shot. I'm like, okay. So I put Rice High School down on my application. Rice had its own entrance exam as well. So I went and took the Rice entrance exam. And when it came time for me to make my own decision, lo and behold, Rice offered me a scholarship. So they offered me a scholarship, and I'm like, yeah, you know what? I need to help my mom with the bills because a private high school is not cheap. And even though Rice had one of the lower tuitions in the city, it was still a bill. It was still a bill. And I wanted to make sure that my mom can still afford to send my brothers, who were also both in parochial schools at the time, to school without having to feel like she's sacrificing everything for us. So I wound up, taking the exams, got the scholarship. I went to visit Rice, and it was when I walked through the lobby and I saw the trophy case, and I walked into the cafeteria and I saw the mural on the wall that was there, even when you were there. Obviously, you guys had new additions to it, but at the time, Malcolm X, Marcus Garvey, Martin Luther King, Frederick Douglass, and staring at these people and realizing that this is a place that is built for me because it is so representative of people who have struggled to be better, to make others better. And that's all I've ever strived to be, is just be better every day. I'm not perfect. Nobody is, I don't think, at least. But we try to be better every day. And one way that we can be better every day is to make others better as well. And that's really what drew me to Rice. It was just walking through the halls. It wasn't the speech that they gave. It wasn't, we at Rice High School are this and we care. It really wasn't that. It was just the aura of walking through that lobby and through that cafeteria and just being like, this is where I'm supposed to be.
I agree with you 1,000%. And it's funny because when you were walking through the halls of Rice, I was as well, believe it or not. I was a little kid at the time, but my older brother was actually in the class of 2000 with that. So you probably saw me and wouldn't even remember me.
That's dope.
So I remember seeing the mural in the cafeteria and just the overall atmosphere and the energy in the building, and the staff, the faculty, the whole nine, from Mr. Shea, Brother Sherlock, Ms. Behringer, Deacon Brown, everybody who was there. As a little kid, you can feel that energy. So when it came time for high school, and I ended up going to summer school in 8th grade through nobody's fault but my own. But as far as high schools were concerned, I took the specialized high school test and I was like, I'm going to go to Stuyvesant. And that didn't work out. But other than that, like, all I thought about was Rice. I was like, I'm going to be on the team. I'm going to get good grades. I'm going to be in Harlem. I'm going to be close to my barber. I had all of these ideas. Yo, man, listen, I used to have to take the A train from Dykeman down to Harlem to get my hair cut, bro.
Yeah. No, that's hilarious because, your barber it's like a diamond in the rough. I still travel to the Bronx for mine. I kid you not. Like, my wife, I live in Long Island, and I drive to the Bronx to get my hair cut. She just looks at me funny. I'm like, you'll never understand.
You'll never understand.
You're not going to understand.
Once you get that one shape up, you can't go to anybody else. That's it. It's like cheating on your wife. You can't do it.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, man, it was just the energy. Harlem was so vibrant at the time. Me 13, 14 years old. And at that point, I started venturing down there more, whether it was playing in summer leagues, just hanging out with friends that I had met, over the years. And just the overall energy, when you walk through Harlem, you feel that sense of energy, especially 125th, passing the Apollo. I remember the first time I walked down 125th after taking the A train, and I was almost late to school because I had to stop and look at the Apollo. And you just kind of feel that magnetic pull towards those things. Even the Adam Clayton Powell building right there on 125th Street, you stop and you hear the names of these things. And you just feel it. Like, you can kind of almost envision it.
Right.
Harlem in its heyday.
The neighborhood at that time, and I want to say to this time, it still has the spirit. Obviously, things have changed, but I think the neighborhood at that time, really just exhibited like what a neighborhood should be. Like, I remember walking outside the school and people were like, so the apartment building that's across the street from Rice High School used to be a basketball court. 3 of them, actually, 3 huge basketball courts. I think they're probably even longer than like NBA courts, but they were just really long and they were side by side, 3 of them. And the whole neighborhood would gather there. If you were playing ball, if you were not playing ball, if you came from Rice, if you didn't come from Rice. I remember a friend of mine from a summer program that I did at Fordham Prep. He was going to Fordham Prep, but I would see him walk by because he lived in Harlem. He lived right up on 24. And I would see him every time. And he would come hang out and we'd be in the park all day long. Like, there were days I wouldn't get home till like 8 o'clock or so because we were just in the park. And of course I got, my butt whipped because of it. But it really was something else. There was such a camaraderie around everybody there. And I feel that it's just where, for some reason, I needed to be. I have been fortunate enough in my educational career to be in places where I should have been. Grade school, high school, college, master's program. All of these places, I felt some kind of actual draw to them, and I've just been lucky. I've been lucky. I feel Rice was different. I don't want to say Rice was the easiest for me to get through because I was the prototypical like dorkish, herby, kind of like just scrawny, short at the time. Just a lot of things, and my mouth did not allow me to make friends easily at times. I wasn't the easiest person to get along with. So for me, Rice was a struggle for a little bit, and trying to find where you fit in this new atmosphere, and especially amongst all guys, we are hard on each other. And when you're going through those teenage years, those pubescent years and stuff, where you're discovering about yourself and who you are as a young man, and just the personality and characteristics that you want to develop and have and not have, the wittiness, the quick comebacks, the jokes. I mean, there wasn't a single day in Rice where somebody wasn't getting dragged.
That was a sport in and of itself.
It was. Oh yeah. There was a Vars A and Vars B for that. Like there was a lot of that. There was for sure. And the best part is that you had teachers that were coaches that they were coaching Vars A and Vars B, joking. Like it just
they were there. They were right in it.
Oh yeah, for sure. They did not. They did not at all. They did not back down. So for me, my draw to Rice really was the atmosphere. Now, when I started at Rice and I started to get a little involved in like extracurriculars and stuff like that, it allowed me to like actually start creating friends. So I started on the baseball team. I did the Spanish club. I did student government. I did the multicultural society, which was called Mandela Chavez Society. So I was the co-president of that one. I was on the student government board. I was the captain of the varsity baseball team my senior year, but I was varsity for 3 years. I didn't play freshman year because I started slipping in my grades, and I decided to pull myself away at that point. But Rice really just offered me just this opportunity to develop skills that I would use later on in life, leadership skills, not just coaching skills, but the ability to be coached as well. Brother Sherlock, Mr. O'Keefe, Mr. Shea, these coaches that were part of my development as a young man, and their ability to kind of instill in me confidence and knowing that I have talent and that I have to work hard in order for that talent to show through. You're not a man without somebody teaching you in life, and what I mean by that is like, yes, you're born male, and we're not going to get into the pronouns and stuff, but I'm talking about just what I went through. But I was born a young man, I was born a boy, and you either take what others are teaching you and use it, or you don't allow them to teach you anything. You try to get through life on your own, and serious mistakes can happen sometimes. So I'm very fortunate to have had these people, man, and it's insane because a few of them have passed away, and it hurt deeply. I'm going to start with Mr. Abbasi. Mr. Abbasi was the biology and global studies teacher for me at Rice. I had him for freshman global studies. I had him for sophomore year for biology, and he would ride me, dude. Like, this dude was tough. He was tough, but he was tough because he knew you had the potential, and he was trying to get that out of you, And I remember I had came across him. We were alone, like on the second floor or something like that. It just happened. I happened to be in the hallway, and he was walking by, and he called me on something that I had did. He said, "Listen, like, a little incident the other day during the exam and stuff like that. I have to send a progress note home. But you've changed since then. Something happened. Something happened where all of a sudden I'm seeing something in you where you are really starting to get it, and you're starting to develop. And that meant a lot to me because I royally screwed up. I royally screwed up on something that I should not have done at the time. And he was able to, like, allow me to make a mistake in my life and not beat me up for it, but then also find out that something maybe I hadn't seen, that I was changing. Like, you know what, that incident should not define me for the rest of my time here. And I appreciate him so much for doing that to me and doing that for me, you know, and letting me be a knucklehead, but also realizing that there was growth afterwards. You know, I can't, I'm remiss if I don't mention like Mr. Gober, Orlando Gober. Orlando Gober was my dean. Then he was the principal at Rice.
I remember him very fondly.
Dude, and you know, lovingly we called him OG, Orlando Gober. But OG was the man. And I remember an incident where it wasn't even me. I was outside the school. We're right on Lenox between 124th and 125th, and the police had stopped a guy on a bike for riding his bike. Stopped the guy for riding his bike, and a student from Rice was like, "But why are you doing that? Like, what did this man do that is so illegal? He was just riding his bike." And the cops started arresting the kid from Rice, and there was a ton of us outside the school again hanging out, and I don't know who ran back to the building, but Mr. Gober and at the time the principal was Brother Walderman. They came out of the school, dude, looking like top cops, like they were running side by side, bro, swag and like a look of determination on their face, like this is not happening. This is not happening. Not here. You are not doing this. He asked a question. He didn't do anything else but ask a question. You have 100 kids outside on 124th Street. On Lenox Avenue between 124th and 125th, and we all witnessed it. We all witnessed what occurred. Now, I'm not going to get into police politics. That's how I'm just saying what Mr. Gober and Brother Walderman looked like walking out of that building. To me that I'm like this man here. He cares. He cares. Mr. Gober had kids. He had his own family. You know, there were students from Rice that he was supporting financially. There were students from Rice that he was paying their tuition. There were students from Rice that he was allowing to let them stay with him so that they didn't have to go home to the turmoil and trauma that they were dealing with at their house. You know, he gave kids jobs on the school grounds. He had a soda, you know, like, you know, the milk chest you had in public school.
Yeah.
So he filled it with RC soda, and I would sell soda for him during lunchtime. And my reward and my payment for that was that he bought my lunch. He would pay for my lunch. I would sell RC soda to him at lunchtime. There were kids that would clean the tables, right? And those kids would get lunch paid for, you know, because we couldn't afford the food. And it wasn't anything against the people making the food, nothing like that. It's just financially at home, we didn't have it. So he found ways to compensate us and at the same time employ us and instill in us a work ethic. Like, hey, like, there is no reward without work. All right, I want to eat today. I'm going to work, you know, and we did that. OG was such an influence for me. I miss him terribly. I do, you know. I don't want to speak here. Oh, there's not a day goes by. You know, there's many days that go. But when I sit and I think about him, and even right now, like, it brings so much joy, the fact that I had him in my life one way or the other, you know. People have their opinions about him. I know there was a book written, stuff like that, a while back, and people have their, you know, just their opinions, and that's fine. Everybody has the right to their opinion, but I think you need to be more than just a spectator to understand what he was doing. And if you weren't actually affected by him directly, maybe you should have asked around. You know, OG, Orlando Gober, much love and respect to that man. Mr. Shea, Mr. Shea and I actually started at Rice together. He was the teacher in 94. I was a student in 1994. And Mr. Shea really cared. This dude looks nothing like anybody that went to school at Rice at the time, right? Looked nothing like us. But he found ways to relate to us, and his jump shot is wicked.
Yo, John Shea, that mid-range,
bro,
nasty.
Oh man, I love
smooth like butter, baby.
Bro, Mr. Shea And it's funny because you just said John Shea, and I'm like, I have a hard time calling him that. And I told him that, like, you'll never be John to me. Like, you always be Mr. Shea. I can't call him John. Like, it's impossible. But Mr. Shea, another one, such a great man, a great person. He took over coaching baseball when I started playing baseball at Rice my sophomore year. And, you know, he did everything, and he did it by himself. He was the only coach. There was nobody else there with him. It was him and him alone. So to have him there and taking this ragtag group of baseball players that didn't win a game, but showed up every day, practice, games, whatever, to play this sport that we loved and that he knew that we loved and that we needed a coach for, you know, and he did that for us. He gave up his time to bring us out to every single game, and we worked hard and we tried our best, you know. Brother Sherlock came in my junior year, and he joined Mr. Shea on the baseball team. And Brother Sherlock, man, I mean, to this day, he and I talk every so often, phone calls that can go on for an hour, catching up. But Brother Sherlock, another influence in my life, because he especially, like, for me on the baseball side, Brother Sherlock has probably forgotten more than most people will ever know. He has probably forgotten more baseball than most people will know. But it wasn't that he coached baseball, it's that he coached you to be a young man. He coached you to be better. This is where I think I kind of get that mentality from. It's like, I just want to be better every day. Whatever it is that I'm doing, whatever I'm working at, I have my newborn. I want to be a better father than him every single day. Every day that I wake up, I want to be a little bit better than I was the day before with him. Because what else can I do? I wasn't born perfect. He wasn't born perfect, although he's awfully cute. But, but you know, so Brother Sherlock, he was really about that. He wanted you to be better every day. Every day that you went to practice, you got better than you were the day before. Every time you catch a ball, you're better than the day before. Every time you feel the ground ball, you're better than you were the day before. You know, and Deacon Brown, God rest her soul, man. She was the mom that so many guys lacked. She was an inspiration. She was the first woman principal at Rice, you know, and she was my math teacher. I think she taught everybody math at Rice at one point.
At some point or another.
Right. And she really, you know, beat it into you. Like, she made sure you understood this thing before she went on to the next thing. Like, she wasn't there to just, all right, well, this is my lesson plan, let's move on. You figure it out, you know? Like, yeah, those are life lessons maybe. But now when it's something where people are struggling with, you know, and I was in all honors classes and I was struggling with the math hard, and she wouldn't let me down. She would not. She kept going and going until you understood the subject, you know? So, man, I'm just Mr. Parrish. I remember Mr. Parrish. He was our English teacher, and he had this thick Haitian accent. Haitian? I forget what country he's from, honestly. I don't think it was Haiti. I think Guyana. And he had this accent, but this man loved English. He loved literature. But he would read with pride. And it rubbed off on you, man. Like you love the fact that when he was reading, he kind of took you with him to what he was reading to you, you know. And he played the part, like when we were doing Romeo and Juliet, he played the part, and he would, I don't want to say he was doing voices, but he was just so emphatic on as far as how he just read the words, because he knew when words needed to be powerful or when they needed to be more somber. You know, like he just knew this stuff. So, you know, Rice was just such a force behind my development personally, and I know for a fact for so many others. You know, I could go down all the list of teachers that taught us, Mr. Popote, Mr. Hearn, my counselors, Mr. Freeze. I had one counselor. He was actually more like a mental health counselor. He was a brother of Rice. I wish I remember his name right now. but he was amazing. And this man, he told me one time, he's like, I stand outside and I watch you guys walk up and down the hall sometimes, and he's like, and you walk differently than a lot of people do in this school. And I asked him, what do you mean by that? He's like, you kind of walk with your shoulders up high, and sometimes people look defeated, but you don't. And he's like, why is that? And I'm like, dude, I've lost. I've lost. I've lost so much in my life up to that point. Like I had family losses, and a few other things that had affected me so much that it's like, I'm still here. What do I have to be depressed about? And it's not to say that you're not allowed to be depressed. It's to say that at that moment, I just couldn't be. I just couldn't be. I couldn't be sad. I couldn't, because I think on top of me needing to be strong for me, I needed to be strong for others as well. I just wasn't going to let what was ailing me defeat me. It wasn't, So Rice gave you the opportunity to grow, to develop, to be your own man, to be an individual. It gave you the coaches that'll help you. And when I say coaches, I don't mean just like sports coaches. I mean like each individual educator was a coach in their own way. And they gave you those people that will help guide you and help you with the decision-making process, It was, for me, such a special point in my life. I remember heading into my senior year, and Brother Sherlock named me the captain of the baseball team. And I didn't, so for me, it's like, wow, I have to be the example of what I want everybody else to be. So it's not running late to the bus or being the last, it's being the first one on the bus. Oh, the freshman got to carry the equipment. No, let me grab something. Let me help out, because I want to play. I want to ball the same way I'm sure Vars A and Vars B want to go out and win chips. I want to go out and win some games. Rice had not won games until my senior year, when we won 5 games finally. So it was an honor to be given that responsibility, and it's not one that I took lightly. I wanted to win. I wanted to compete. I wanted guys to get better. I wanted all of us to be better, because we didn't have the greatest baseball team in the world. I think you were spoiled, because like when you were at Rice, the baseball team went to the playoffs and the baseball team won games in the playoff, and we didn't have that, man. That was not a regular.
Man, listen, I played freshman year, and we got to the playoffs, and we played against who did we play? Was it Scanlon? I think we played Scanlon in the first round of the playoffs, and I'll never forget it, because I was actually the last. I was not the last out. I was out before the last out of the game, and we lost. And the pitcher was throwing lollipops. And, I was a statue. I could not swing the bat, bro. I could not. You put me in the field, glove for days, cannon from right field, I'll gun you out at home. Swinging the bat, statue. I don't know what it was, the transition from like slow pitch to fast pitch. I don't know what it was that 8th grade to 9th grade year, because I could hit. It's just once you get hit by a fastball a couple of times, it's like you just brace yourself every time you see it coming. Right. So my freshman year, I think everybody went to the playoffs.
Yeah, something like that.
But I think we won like 2, 3, 4 games maybe. But you had people like Jordan pitching, trusting behind the plate. We had Kevin Nascimento. We had David Chicory at first base.
Oh, my boys. Listen.
De Silva. We had De Silva out there.
Mikey. Yeah.
Yeah. We had quite a few dudes, man. And
it was we'll get to that in a second, as far as, because I it's funny because you didn't play when I was coaching then, because then you said you played I
did my freshman year. Sophomore year, you started coaching.
Sophomore year, yeah. But yeah, so when they made me captain, I took it as a responsibility. And again, like, we're hard on each other at Rice. We don't give up. So a lot of guys were clowning this and that, and it's cool. Like, I love those guys. Honestly, I back then I ate a lot of the jokes and stuff like that. And I to say that none of them bothered me, there was a lot of times that it bothered me. But I didn't take it personal at the end of the day, because I know that I would give it back and that we were just joking on each other for the most part, you know. Rice helped me. So I lost my scholarship to Rice. I'll be honest. I didn't make the grade the way I was supposed to. And my mom had a meeting with the school, and basically I probably wasn't going to be returning at one point because the tuition it wasn't anywhere where we could afford it. So she went, she spoke to the school. Mr. Flood, God rest his soul too, man, Jesus. Mr. Flood went and found a way for me to have financial aid. So I was put on financial aid at Rice, where some of my tuition was paying down. But they also helped me find my first job, my first paying job. And there was a Rice alum. I want to say his name was John Brennan. And he was vice president at United States Aviation Underwriters, which is an insurance company for aviation, right? So planes, stuff like that. Located on the 14th and 15th floor of the Prudential building over by the South Street Seaport. And I went down there, I interviewed, I was given the opportunity to work there. I was making at the time $7.50 an hour. And every month I had to give my mom $120 out of my check to pay for my tuition. And that's how I was able to continue at Rice. With that being a part of my daily life now, having to go to work and go to school, things changed. Things changed because I needed to now support myself. I needed to support my mom, my family. I had a little girlfriend, so I would take her on dates and stuff like that. But I had to grow up. I realized that I messed this up. I had this opportunity to go to school for a real cut rate, and long story short, I messed it up. So I needed to kind of shape up or ship out, as they say, right? And I didn't want to go to public school. I'll be honest, I was afraid of public school. I was. At the time in New York City, it was the rise of the Bloods and the Crips, and we had a lot of the Latin gangs as well, the Nietas, Latin Kings. So all this stuff is going on in these public schools, and Rice was like, not that. Were there guys in gangs in Rice? I don't know. I never saw them, at least, throwing up signs or anything in the school. But I was afraid of public school, and I was not gonna go to public school.
Hey, I don't blame you, man. I was the exact same way.
So it was either shape up or ship out, and I'm like, nah, I can't do this anymore. I can't. So I changed a lot. I grew up. I started this job. I was getting paid, but my money was going to the things that I had messed up on, and it was basically losing my scholarship. So I had to kind of put everything towards that at that point. Rice gave me every opportunity to succeed, even though there were times that I was going to fail myself. They wouldn't let me though. They wouldn't let me because Rice was willing to see the potential that every young man had. Were there kids that were dismissed from Rice? Yeah, because at some point you have to cut losses, and some people just don't want to be a part of. Don't worry about it. But yeah, so back to what I was saying, like Rice really just allowed me to not fail. Like they weren't gonna let me. They weren't gonna let. You had to choose you had to choose failure. You had to choose.
Absolutely.
And unfortunately, some people did. I started with a class of 125. I think we graduated with 75 guys.
I think that was the same with us. I think it was the exact same number for us.
Right. So Rice, like it was a small school. And you hope you all made it through, but not everybody did. Not everybody was able to accept the challenge. Not everybody was ready for actual learning. Not everybody was ready for reality. I think the biggest thing with Rice was that the teachers looked like you. Like I had never had that really. I never had male teachers until I was in 6th grade, and that guy looked nothing like me. He was an old white guy. Yeah.
No, it's definitely. Oh my goodness! It was definitely
Hold on.
a warming experience to walk into a building and see black men as teachers, you know.
Big time.
Not to say that, having women teachers and white teachers and all of that, it doesn't make a difference, but it was just when you see somebody like you in that position, it changes your perspective on things. It's like, I can be a teacher, I'm capable of completing these 4 years here and then going to college, completing my college education and becoming a teacher and being able to come back into my community to show other young men that they're capable as well. Right. And I think that was the biggest thing about Rice's influence on me, that I was able to see that. And then I could also emulate that. Mm-hmm. I was able to start emulating that pretty much as soon as I walked in the building. Freshman year, Brother Sherlock, he would do the Thanksgiving food drive, and we would go to the church, I think on 138th Street and 7th Avenue, and we would give out the turkeys and he said, hey, you guys want to do, and I didn't have Brother Sherlock my freshman year. So this was me as a freshman walking up to this teacher who probably didn't remember me when I was standing at his knee. Right. And, I volunteered to give out turkeys. And, you got to think about it. When you're doing that, you're on winter recess. So I'm coming down on my day off to help out and, just being involved in the community in that way and just seeing the effect that it had. You see the kids, they're happy, they're going to have food for Thanksgiving. And obviously the elders in the neighborhood, they were very appreciative. And you start seeing some of those kids grow up and give back to the neighborhood as well. And one of the things that I think was paramount at Rice was the community service aspect that you had to complete to graduate. I think that was huge.
Yeah, there's still a lot of diplomas that haven't been picked up because people have not completed community service. It's 2022. Wow. That happened. Listen, they had the diplomas from when I was there in 94, from 94 to 98. People from the 80s that never did community service, and you didn't officially graduate. Like literally, you didn't graduate. You did not graduate yet. You could tell me you took every test. You could tell me you didn't do your 50 hours of community service, and yeah, it was a requirement, but I think it should have been almost an opportunity for somebody to choose to be like, yeah, if I have to do community service, I want to do it here. I want to do it there. I want to do it in this aspect. I did mine at my retreat house. I assisted with a bunch of retreats where I worked, these weekend retreats and stuff. It's called Grace House. Now, I don't know if Grace House still exists or not. It's been a long time since I had gone. But I remember my time there and how people at Rice knew about it. And they were like, oh, you go? I'm like, yeah, I go to Grace House. They're like, that is so awesome. It's a CYO retreat house, and they also hold like youth group meetings and stuff like that. But the weekend that I worked, the absolute greatest weekend I ever worked at Grace House wasn't with the teenagers that were my age, and it wasn't with the kids that were a little younger than me. It was with children who had special needs. One of the most exhausting weekends of my life. And you're trying to bring the Spirit of God and his message to people that are exactly who Jesus himself was serving. Those the forgotten, the ones that were cast aside, the ones that people wouldn't take a second look at, right? That's who Jesus was with. Jesus didn't hang around with all the kings and the queens of his time. He hung around with the poor. He hung around with people who were categorized as not valid members of society, the overlooked. And this was a community that the care weekend. So it's Christ awareness reaches everyone. The care weekend was exactly that. It was a weekend where you're serving people who want to learn, people who are avid about their faith, and you get to be with them for a full weekend of spiritualness and devotion, camaraderie. Bro, it was amazing. It was amazing. So when I did my community service and I put, you had to do a paper. I don't know if you guys had to do a paper or not. I had to do a paper. Okay. So I had to do a paper on my service, and I wrote that paper. I wound up getting a community service award at graduation. And I'm like, thank you. I didn't, but they were like, no, they were like, listen, like, you don't understand. Like, it was probably one of the most difficult things you could have ever have done. Easily one of the most difficult things you could have ever have done. But you embodied what service was about, because service isn't about helping those who can help themselves. Service isn't about helping those who are already fortunate, it's for serving those who are in need, those who are overlooked, those who may not have the resources, those who are wanting but unable to. And I'm like, thank you. I didn't at that time, I didn't see it that way. I saw it as, oh, this is a different type of weekend, and I want to experience this. My takeaway wasn't that until it was kind of explained to me, and I had to kind of take inventory on what I had just done, and it was a beautiful thing, my time at Rice as a student, I went there scrawny little herb. I walked out of there a scrawny young man. I was actually skinny at one point in my life, so I did. I left Rice. Man, I left Rice. I was probably like 150 pounds. So yeah, it was a long time ago. But I remember
we all were skinny at one point.
Yeah, man. I remember. So senior mass, St. Patrick's Cathedral, and they have all, like, as many, because they hold it over 2 days, because there's just that many schools, right? So they hold it over 2 days. My day, I happened to be there with when Rice was there. It happened to be with Aquinas All Girls School from the Bronx, and it was a lot of schools. But I mentioned Aquinas specifically because I went to school with like half the girls that went to Aquinas for grade school. So when they saw me, and it was just all love when they saw me, they're like, yo, you have changed so much. I didn't get to see them during those 4 years of high school and stuff, a lot of them. But they're like, yo, you changed so much, you've grown up so much, all this other stuff. And this wasn't during a time of Facebook and everything where you can show like the development of your life. But it really was just the way I was carrying myself at the time. And it's because I had confidence in myself. I had just this outlook on life that, like, you know what, no matter what happens, if I'm going to learn it the hard way, I'm going to learn it the hard way, but I'm going to learn it. You're not going to take that from me. And no matter what it takes, I'm going to be better every day. And that's all I could ever ask of myself. That's all I ever ask of anybody else. I don't ask people to be perfect. I don't expect the unexpectable, the impossible. My expectation is that you're just better every day. Just be better. That's it. And they kind of, and they said that like, you just, you carry us, because they knew me in grade school, and in grade school again, I was a scrawny little herb, so it was just something very different, I guess, about the way that I just carried myself as a man at that point. So I was so happy to see them, and it almost kind of made me cry when they told me that, because they knew me from way back when. They knew exactly a lot of things that I had gone through in my life as a young man. With the loss and then the divorce of my dad, and a lot of stuff that, my dad not being there, and a lot of stuff that, I guess, is so relatable amongst so many young men in neighborhoods like ours. But I was a very sensitive person. I was ultra sensitive, and these things, when they happened to me, and I felt it. I felt every inch of it. I wasn't hard body. I wasn't thick-skinned. I am now, but that took a long time. But back then I wasn't. So I was a very sensitive young man. I had emotions, and my emotions showed. So when they saw me that day and they saw that I was just different, it wasn't because I was, cute, or he got handsome because he was dorky looking, you know, like the ugly duckling story. It was because I to the point of the guidance counselor that saw me in the hallway, I was just carrying myself differently. And it's because of everybody at Rice that influenced me. My mom busted her butt. She worked and she worked and she worked, and she did everything that she needed to do to keep us out of the streets. She put us in baseball league. She took us to whatever activity or vacation or whatever it is that she could afford. But I needed a male influence, and Rice High School provided that. So when I go back to Rice in 2008 and started my own catering company and started watching you guys grow up and seeing the things that I remember vividly I went through at Rice and with my friends, and just being kids, because we're kids when you're there, you know? So kids are kids, and kids are going to do kid things. But being able to witness it as an adult and to kind of have, again, take a self-inventory, right, of myself and what I had experienced and gone through, and seeing you guys, I'm like, yeah, they're going to go through the same things, and they're going to have hard knocks every once in a while. But there's resiliency here. There's resiliency through all of you. And Shaq, what you're doing with this is amazing. And I appreciate you I love you for doing this.
I love you too, Oz.
You know, there are 5,000 or so alum, right? You can have 5,000 stories. I don't think
be different.
Yeah, I don't think there's going to be a person that will turn you down for this opportunity. You know, I don't want to talk about my time working at Rice, because I want there to be a part 2 of this, and not out of selfishness, but because I needed to tell kind of what I felt was like what I went through as a student. Mm-hmm. And save those years that you guys were there for you, because those are your years. They weren't mine. I was now the witness to everything that you guys were doing. But I want to see Hashim. I want to see Tristan. I want to see Kev Bosa. I want to see Ramel, right? I want to see people have memories of their friends who unfortunately have passed, right? We have guys from your years that have passed away.
Yes.
And you know, rest in peace to Tom. You know, rest in peace to Anton. Like, and I forget the other young Jamil. Rest in peace to him as well. Rest in peace to, you know, brother Glenn.
Yes.
And just anybody and everybody that was at Rice that is no longer with us. Just thank you for being such a pivotal part in the development or the friendship that we had at Rice. You know, I remember Ton in the cafeteria, and I mind you, I'm a grown ass man at the time, 30 something years old, and he's in there, he's gigging on me, he's laughing in my shoes, and I don't know if this was during that time. No, it wasn't yet. It wasn't the what are those times. But he was saying something stupid. I mean, I'm just laughing at this kid, man, and I'm laughing because he's like ecstatic to have jokes, and it was just so funny to me because I'm like, yo, you're a funny dude. Like he was such a comedian, you know, and man, like you got, you know, like that was Rice. Like you had to be ready for it. You had to be ready to get gigged on. There was one kid, I'm not gonna name names, but there was one guy that I went to Rice with. He came in one day wearing all brown. They started calling him UPS. Like they just called him UPS, bro. All day long. That's all he got was, yo, where's my package? Yo, I'm like, yo, bro, you guys are like terrible individuals to each other. But it was always done with so much like just love. Like you can joke and actually still love the person because it meant nothing. It wasn't like yo, your mom's a this, you know. Like it wasn't to that level. The jokes were just like they were cut because they were just funny. But
you get caught slipping one day. You get caught slipping. That's it.
Yeah, big time. Ramel made me laugh. Ramel made me laugh because I was in my, you know, like in the cafeteria, I had everybody wearing a green t-shirt with the Dickie pants and stuff. And he walks up to me, he's like, yo, I don't like your style. I'm like, what do you mean my style? I don't like your style. I'm like, but I'm wearing work clothes. He's like, I don't care. I don't like your style. I'm like, yo, bro, like, he's like, right here, baby, you see this jacket right here? $500. Da, da, da. I'm like, yeah, you paid $500 for an ugly jacket, bro. I don't know what to tell you. But it was, dude, like, I watched you guys, and I can't wait to hear everybody's story from that end. I know, just personally for me, I took it as I had to grow up. I took it as I had to grow up, and there were actually male role models for me to follow because it wasn't at home. To no fault of my mom. My mom did the absolute best that she could, and she did a tremendous job. 3 boys, all college graduates, all 3 homeowners, married, kids, and living a very good life, all of us. But we also had to find surrogate fathers for that to occur as well. For my one brother, it was his advisor at his high school, and he actually went away to high school in Virginia to a boarding school. It was like a ritzy, like tobacco money, like Philip J. Morris kids were there kind of money. And my brother Armando he went to Hayes, and it was the teachers at Hayes, and some of them were actually lifelong friends that we've known forever that were help guiding him while he was at Hayes and stuff. So, my mom did everything that she could, but if it wasn't for that male influence and those men being not just caring about our development, but also tough on us, because the world's going to be tough on you. I don't know what would have happened with us. I don't think we would have been criminals, but I don't think we would be where we are right now. And we're not, billionaires, but we're loved, and we love, and we